Welcome to Cyber Live. I'm Kurt Hermans and Wouter here together with me. And today we will do a deep debrief of the RSA conference 2026. What is it all about? What is the hype? Is it real? Why do security leaders need to attend?
Thank you, Kurt. I'm Wouter. I'm leading the portfolio team. And today we're recording this while it's still fresh. I can still feel a bit of the jet lag in my body. So it's still pretty fresh. We've seen all the announcements last week, the product announcements. We've seen the patterns across the vendors and the sessions we followed, and we'll be sharing that today with you.
Yeah, correct, Wouter. Also a little bit jet lagged, but nevertheless, quick agenda. First, let's get a refresh on what RSA, what is it exactly? Why does it matter? We'll zoom in on the big theme of this year. It's really agentic AI. What does it mean for the defenders, but also for the attackers? And then we will cover some other things like risk and governance. And we saw some other signals, Wouter, platformization, I think about, regulatory pressure, and increased focus on the proactive security.
Maybe before we dive into it, practical question. You can ask us questions in the Q&A section. And after our initial 15 to 20 minutes talk we'll be having, we have a special guest joining, Jeroen van der Leur, was one of the speakers on RSAC. He gave a talk on using agents in purple teaming. Actually, he's going to give a short demo on how to do that. Very much looking forward to that. So RSAC, or the RSA conference, for anyone new to it, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, global gathering of cybersecurity professionals. It's kind of equal parts a conference, expo, and it's very much also a networking marathon.
Yeah, correct, Wouter. Let's put some figures on it, because figures always say more than words. It was the 35th year anniversary of the conference.
Yeah. And this year we had about 43,000 participants, which was slightly less than last year. Which means that almost every security topic you can imagine was represented, from SOC operators to CISOs to founders of new startups.
Correct, and we were roughly 650 exhibitors. It's always a mix of the giants, but also the scale-ups, the fast-moving targets, and startups, of course.
And it's quite difficult to mention our agenda because there were 570 sessions you could pick from, keynotes, track sessions, deep dives, workshops. It's needless to say, but there's no one way to experience RSA.
Correct, and that all in San Francisco, the beautiful San Francisco, which turns up to be the cybersecurity eco-center of the world for 1 week. It's amazing what you see there. The billboards, it's transformed completely into a cybersecurity city. Now, the question we always get, Wouter, and why do you go? Everything is streamed on the internet. You can look at YouTube films and so on. So what is the reason why people should go?
Yeah, actually for me, it's been my 5th year in a row. And it's really interesting to see the value of this conference, showing the evolution of the themes over time. You see vendors come and go through M&A or to startups, new categories being launched, and for me personally, it's a week in which I can have very high quality C-level conversations with our vendors and our key partners in a very compressed time frame.
We'll come back to that later. And for me, the second time, what I think is cool is I try to translate cool technologies that I see there into an operational model. And for me, that's important as an operational lead to see what is actually deployed. How will we run those things? What skills do my people need? And what changes in the SOC and also on level of governance.
Well, and that brings us needless into the headline theme we saw everywhere. And not just in keynotes, but in product roadmaps, in demos on booths, in side conversations we had with the execs. There's only one theme this year. It was agentic AI, for sure.
Yeah, something always highlighted in every conversation. And it's also an IDC projection that by 2028, we will see around 1.3 billion AI agents already deployed. whether the number is exact or not, don't want to discuss it into detail, but the direction is very clear. We are moving from AI features towards AI actors that can take their own actions.
And one of the sessions we followed was with Forrester, one of the analysts, and they make a key point that resonated. The workforce problem we've been having in cyber is kind of shifting a little bit. It's not just about a pure headcount gap anymore, it's about a skills gap. And they were framing it as a kind of 40-60. 40% of the problem was on headcount, while 60% was on skills. And it's kind of fewer empty seats to fill, but more like how can we train our people to move at AI speed and keep on evolving.
Correct. And if you look at the innovation sandbox, one of the places within the conference, we also had some indications. There we saw a lot of new companies were not pitching a point tool any longer. It was all about agents. How can we triage alerts? What is an agent hunting for? An agent that writes detection rules, an agent who remediates. It was amazing.
And the overall message actually on the fair was remarkably consistent. It sounded a bit like this.
Yeah, we are at a tipping point.
Yeah, we're moving from a linear world into an exponential one.
Yeah, and the open question kept pointing, what will AI bring and what will it break, of course.
And then the lead for cybersecurity in the Microsoft side, José Jacal, captured it a bit of like AI-powered attacks. It's a real sea change. It's not just future scenario, it's now.
Yeah, correct. And the thing I heard a lot was digital co-workers. And what is an interesting thing about that is that as a human being, you have to manage agents. It's not like today. You will manage agents. You guardrail them. You approve steps. You verify the outcome. It's different. Yeah.
I concretely think of agents that can watch suspicious authorizations, can pull the entire identity context, check risky sign-ins, draft a response plan, and then either executes that automatically or ideally, which is for approval to a human agent.
Yeah, correct. Let's a little bit talk about the risk, because at the conference, it was not only optimism that we saw about it. The first thing is that agents don't behave like traditional software. It's a little bit non-deterministic. And so meaning the same prompt for an agent can still produce different things. So it makes the repeatability and the testing really, really hard.
Yeah, and the second risk that was clearly identified across the conference is accountability. When an agent takes an action, blocks a user, for example, rotates credentials, quarantines a laptop, opens a ticket, changes a rule, who is actually responsible? Is that the vendor of the model? Is that the vendor of the cybersecurity tool? Is that the team that configured it? Is that the person who clicked the last approve step? Who is accountable?
Yeah, and the third one is observability. In a classic security tool, we have strong audit tools, but with agents, we need more. Full traces, what does the agent see? What is the decision? What tools did it use? And what changed? And plus, then the ability to replay it and to at least explain the decisions it made.
I wish these three risks, non-determinism, accountability, and observability, that leads a bit into the conclusion of agentic AI. And it was just not a single product. That is agentic AI. It's really a pattern across the cybersecurity ecosystem.
Yeah. So perhaps the first takeaway I wanted to give is the industry has basically reached consensus on the fact that agentic AI governance is urgent. And by the way, not solved today, which is very interesting to hear. So the density of agent announcements across all major vendors made that impossible for us to miss.
And maybe as a second learning on this topic is we see a lot of activity on the discovery of agents, on the runtime protection, but we've kind of lagged the foundational governance plumbing almost. It's the consistency across audit trails, centralized gateways, kind of the baseline security controls are not yet in place on the agentic side.
Correct. And then takeaway 3 perhaps is we also felt that security leaders today are not waiting on the market to converge. It's conversation at each booth that we had were already about architecture. How will we access, how these agents will access data, how are we going to do approvals, what gets automated, and when and how and what is needed to keep the human in the loop. And those decisions will be locked in models, governance models, or gaps for years, I think.
Okay, let's hit a few other topics besides agentic AI. There are a couple of topics that we selected that came up repeatedly across the different conversations. Let's start with one of the main ones that's been there for a couple of years now, but still very present, which is platformization.
Yeah, correct. First, the definition of real platformization is worth repeating, because it's more than just rebranding a bundle.
Especially the most interesting element they explicitly mentioned on the definition was that a real platform should combine multiple security controls into a single data model across those controls, and a unified user experience or analyst experience that reduces kind of the manual workloads.
Yeah, and the outcome should be ease of use, of course, and turns into productivity gains, not just dashboards and so on.
Yeah, and a real platform as a third property has to be kind of an ecosystem. Marketplaces, integrations with third parties. It cannot be just a tool by itself or a vendor by itself. It needs to be extensible.
Yeah, and yes, it usually becomes a financial argument also versus a point solution. But for me, the operational model is the real price.
Maybe one nuance in practice, we see also in our customers that many large organizations actually won't end up with one single platform. It's gonna be more like 2, 3, 4 platforms. We see typically one on more the proactive exposure management side, one on reactive detection response, typically one on identity and human risks, and we see more and more like a 4 platform on agents, automation as their own separate layer.
Yeah. And another recurring threat, what we see is governance, risk, and compliance, of course, and especially in Europe, because their regulation are really shaping priorities. So Cyber Resilient Act, NIS2, and the preparation of post-quantum cryptology, PQC, like we say, and that showed up not only in the talks we saw, but also at the vendors and the proposals they made for their roadmaps.
And then with many regulations, we see that Europe is leading the way, and gradually it's getting adopted across the globe. As a third kind of theme we've seen across the vendors is kind of a continued refocus on proactive security, not just waiting till something happens and a quick detection and response, but also proactively managing the attack surface, reducing exposures, and turning your kind of security operations center from a response only to a kind of remediation of weaknesses while we go. It's not closing an alert, it's continuously improving your kind of footprint. So let's shift gears and briefly talk about the vendors we connected with during the event.
Yeah, so on executive level, we had some meaningful conversations with leading players in security, including Cisco, Armis, Fortinet, F5, Microsoft, Splunk. We saw them all. So these C-level meetings gave us an excellent insight into strategic priorities and product roadmaps.
Yeah. And we certainly met some very interesting new innovation companies on the fair. But we also had a chance to meet one of our new vendors, Zscaler, which kind of brought a fresh perspective to the table.
Yeah, beyond those, the exhibition floor and the breakout session were really bursting with activities. We connected with the right range of providers, also it's like CyberArk, Netscope, Cribble, among many others. And every vendor brings its unique solution, unique viewpoints, and that's the worthwhile visiting the booth. Before we wrap, let's give the listeners 3 practical takeaways you guys can use immediately. First of all, agentic AI is becoming operational. So treat agents as individuals with permissions, policies, lifecycle management, and not as a feature. Second thing I want to give you is governance is the gap. Prioritize audibility, approve workflows, and make sure that you can prove what happened and why did it happen. And the last one is a short one. Fix the root cause, not only the alert you see in your SOC.
And if we kind of make that translated into a kind of tangible plan, I think that the first step in the next couple of weeks should be really focusing on what are current agents already deployed in my organization. What are actions that I would allow agents to execute on my environment? Secondly, in like the second month from now, that would be May or June, design kind of the minimal AI governance pattern. Which are my identities of agents? What is the least privilege I'm going to give them? How and when do I still want humans in the loop? And what are my audit requirements? And maybe even think about how can I turn off agents if necessary. And then as a third part of your plan is really pilot one of those high value use cases for you. It could be on phishing triage, it could be on remediating exposures or maybe identity risks. Define some clear metrics and review it while you go along with it.
I think that is it for us. So it's a little debrief of RSAC of this year. But if you want us to go deeper into agent governance, patterns, exposure management, or other things, perhaps what could I ask a vendor concerning those new technologies? Just let us know, because we can always pitch these topics anytime you want.
Yeah. So thank you for joining this part of the Cyber Life. Couple of announcements before I give the word to Jeroen. So we are happy to announce our next Cyber Life at the end of this month. It's on the 30th of April, which is an interesting topic as well. It's on OT security, illuminating the darkness. We'll put a link in the Q&A section of the webinar. So let me introduce Jeroen. He's sitting next to me. Are you ready, Jeroen, for the demo?
Yes. Okay, so thank you very much, Koos. Thank you very much, Wouter. So yeah, I have to admit, let me quickly close down the screen. So I was very happy that I could join Koos and Wouter as well on RSA. Related to that, we had a presentation on RSA, and that's also with that we are going to end a little bit. Okay, what did we present? And how actually I also experienced RSA in that sense. So I think Koos and Wouter already mentioned it quite often. Yeah, it was AI, and agents and AI agents, and a combination of you need to be in control of your agents. And then Jeroen created a presentation and said, I'm going nuts with AI agents. So there I am. I have created like a proof of concept called Purple Crew, which I will dig a little bit deeper in. And our talk, it was actually the 5th time that we had our section about always on Purple team. And this time we focused on AI-powered red ops. So really from an offensive perspective, what can we do with agents? And as Oprah already said, you get an AI agent, you get an AI, everyone gets an AI agent. So that's also something we saw during RSA, that a lot of those things are AI-based. So let's quickly go over our proof of concept on what we try to showcase. So typically we have humans in control and AI agent in support. So that's also what we have done with Purple Crew. So a red team operator, from that perspective, I'm giving in a target and I want to have like a lot of information on that target. So what are we going to do? Well, reconnaissance for both human and technical attack surface. So what are AI agents, or what is AI good at? Well, actually, if you have a large data set and you really want to have that large data set being analyzed on patterns on other things, well, AI, and definitely agentic AI, can be quite useful for that one. So that's also something we did in our demonstration. where we said, okay, give me all the information that you can find online about a specific company, and I will show you. You now see my screen, I'm guessing, of the Purple Crew. Yeah, you see a black screen now with the, okay, perfect. So this is a little bit like the OSINT perspective, and we will dig a little bit deeper on, I did an reconnaissance of proximusnext.com to see, and Wouter, sorry, I profiled you, so you are there. So Wouter is a cyber expert at Proximus Next, but we will see a little bit further on how we could use that. So, but again, this is the scenario. We have a company that we want to target, and we want to get as much information to actually create an attack plan. And what is now as good, because typical phishing doesn't work anymore. So what can AI, or where can AI assist as well, is creating those scenarios based on trust. Meaning, now that I know that, sorry again, Wouter, I'm profiling Wouter this time, but Wouter, I know he works for Proximus Next. Let's have a look at his connections, and let's see how he's working together with. I know I have a webinar together with Wouter. Maybe I can abuse that kind of scenario to actually trigger Wouter in clicking on a certain link. So those are the things that we actually implemented within that Purple Crew mechanism. So then we of course need to have an authorized attack path. Now, because we also have that reconnaissance phase from a technology landscape, we also have potentially a vulnerability that we could abuse. And then based on those two, we have our scenario, we have our vulnerability. So based on those two, we can actually start our campaign and then take over or hand off towards a real red team, or towards, for example, our purple team. So this is really like how to get an initial foothold and how we can use and leverage agentic AI and, for example, OSINT tools based on what we have seen in the past and, of course, also in the future. Now, just an important concept that I need to mention, and probably already heard of it, it's MCP, Model Context Protocol. So that's also something we use with this tool. Why? Because our agents, instead of finding out on how to work with the tool, it's like if we buy, like, for example, a dishwasher. I recently buy the dishwasher, that's why this example. But if I want to know how to use the dishwasher, I get a manual, and actually within that manual, I can see how to work with my dishwasher. Typically, it's an on-off button, but okay. For our agents, it's actually the same. They need to have a certain manual. They need to have a certain way of communicating on how to operate with tools. Well, an MCP nowadays, that's the standard protocol there that we are typically using for leveraging those tools. So also for our OSINT tools, and you see we have Kali, we have Caldera, we have Zapier. So based on that, we have a connection that our agents are actually able to work with those tools. So what are other things? Of course, we have resources, so which can be based on external data, but also on internal data. And we have prompts, which are the task-specific messages that are actually within your agentic AI framework. And I already mentioned it, sorry to disappoint you, Kurt and Wouter again, but I have a lot of agents. So I'm working with a tool called Crew AI. Definitely feel free to play around with it. It's open source, and you can create your own agents there. And that's for me was one of the main reasons why I chose for Crew AI, is because you have full control. In that sense, I know what my agents are doing. I can give them very specific context. I can give them very specific tools. So from that perspective, that was my main reason why I chose for Crew AI. Now, there are many frameworks out there. Feel free to choose your framework. Again, this is a concept, and it's also open source. So on GitHub, on my GitHub repo, you can find Purple Crew. Not the offensive part, because that's a little bit too dangerous at the moment. But we will do an update in the next couple of weeks. So I have a red team crew, which is really, from a red team perspective, is going to execute certain adversary emulation techniques. So this is then most based on a report, and then it's going to analyze that report, going to see how attacker works, and actually translate it. I also have an IT ops crew. Why do I have an IT ops crew? Well, because we are emulating certain attacks. I don't want to run that into production, so I have an IT operations crew who can actually set up that environment to test on and to see, okay, what are we detecting? And then, of course, we have our blue team crew, which is monitoring our scene, which is monitoring our incidents and alerts so that we have additional information. Now, this was version 2025, which we already got working and which is already open sourced. Now for version 2026, we added an additional crew, which is our OSINT crew, where we have the domain recon expert, we have a technology agent to monitor the technology, LinkedIn profiler to see, okay, what interesting connections can we see? And again, you see, we're using the same framework, so we just added a crew, and then we have like that model context protocol and our NCP tool calls that you can use. So let's have a look, and maybe the first one, I showcased this morning to Kurt. So this is my, so you have a very nice open sourced concept. Again, you have pixel agents where you actually can visualize your agents on what they are doing. So you see now with the OSINT that I'm doing in my office, 3 agents are now busy at their desk working. Now again, this is not really something functional, but for a human perspective, it's now nice to see, okay, which agents are doing what. So here you already have like a nice overview on what which agent is doing. But of course, let's go to the core of our tool. So what did I do, or what is this? This is Purple Crew. This is just a graphical interface around my Crew AI. And just with one command, I can do start recon. I already did it because it takes a couple of 10 minutes, and I don't think we want to wait for 10 minutes. But what you see over here again is you have the start recon button, stop OSINT. So start recon, then actually for that target domain, and for that context, it's going to do reconnaissance, meaning it's going to look at the website, it's going to look on LinkedIn, it's going to look on public resources. So just to give you an overview, here we have Proximus Next. Proximus Next is a leading Belgian, of course it is, a part of the Proximus group. Yes, we are. And of course, we are the best in B2B technology solutions, of which cybersecurity as well. So then it gets also, it looks for legal documents online because I requested it to. So maybe for owners, maybe for additional contact information, blog intelligence, connected entities. So based on that, you also see that you have, for example, Microsoft 365 technology is in here, and you have a potential attack scenario, which is token flare, which instead of stealing someone's credentials, it's stealing someone's tokens. So based on that, it also does and have a look at which persons are working. So you see here, I have a LinkedIn MCP server, and I also have like an OSINT MCP server. So my LinkedIn MCP server, that's really where I'm going to target persons on LinkedIn. So for example, here you have Wouter. So sorry again, Wouter. I hope we're not sharing too much. But in any case, so this is just based on information we could find online. I see Wouter a little bit worrying towards me, like, what are you showcasing here? But you see articles, blog posts, publications are there, YouTube videos where he appeared in, and connected entities, which is also interesting because now I can have a look, like, okay, who is the connected entity? And then I can even say, craft a phishing scenario for that one. So based on, here I have all the other persons. Now I can say, based on that relationship, craft a certain phishing email. Now I already did that. So in that perspective, we have it over here. So based on that, Wouter is going to receive an email of Iris. And Iris is our marketing responsible there. And we are doing a lot of things, of course, with Iris. And based on that, it's then going to draft an email, Wouter, quick check-in related to the San Francisco RSA. So based on this Cyber Live, it already got an indication of, and I don't know if I can zoom in maybe a little bit, but it already gave us an indication like, maybe that's an interesting link, and maybe I can use that email address with my token flare attack in it and send it towards Wouter. So here you see it's impersonating Iris. Here you see it is Wouter that is being targeted. And then again, here we have that token flare attack. And we can also plant a flag in case he clicks on that token flare and in case we have access. Now, what's maybe also interesting to see is we also have a Caldera, where we then, at this moment, because that's really going in depth then, but at this moment it's not running. But Caldera, for example, there you are going to emulate certain attack patterns because we already had our initial foothold. We also have that integration with Kali. So again there, And then you also see once that token has been stolen, so once that token is stolen, I have access towards the account of Wouter. And there I can then plant my flag, and there you see the full event log, flag planted, exploitation clicked, and then actually it was, and then we can take it over towards our full red team. So here as well, you then get a nice report of which techniques were being used. So based on that, it's just like a small project I started off with, which as you see here, they're still working the diligently related to OSINT. But based on that, it's a small project, but it also showcases the power of agentic AI and AI. And my lessons learned here as well is indeed remain in control. See, because it only started working if I gave it the right context, if I gave it the right context per agent. And in certain agentic frameworks, you're not able to do that, which also means if you don't do that, then for example, if I type in Proximus Next, that's really a dedicated organization to target, that Proximus Global gets linked, and that everything within Proximus Global then also gets linked, which of course you don't want to do. You really want to have that context, human intelligence, to have it under control, but also the control over what are your agents sharing and what can they explicitly do. Because this can become quite dangerous if you use this in production and you're going to target the wrong company, then of course you have an issue there as well. But again, an example on how you can actually use agentic AI and what was showcased in our RSA talk. So it is recorded, so it will be, I think in the upcoming months, it will be live as well. But in any case, feel free to reach out to me, Kurt or Wouter, if you have additional questions, so we can assist or support you on that. With that being said, so it was a very nice experience. I really enjoyed myself related to, again, presenting at RSA. It's one of the biggest conferences that there is. Not always that technical, but we typically want to make it more technical and really have something actionable to present. That's what we did again, and I think it was well received. And also there, I hope it was a very short demonstration, but I hope you already saw like, okay, agentic AI and AI as such can change the game and is already changing the game. We see that very frequently. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day, and hopefully it was interesting, and see you at the next one. Thank you very much.
Proximus Next. Inspired by tech, driven by people.